Hello. So first, I just kind of want to start off with a quick story. I recently visited my brother who moved to Colorado about a year ago from here in St. Louis, and we kind of did all the normal stuff, sightseeing, going out to eat, whatever. And we were actually right outside Arvada, Colorado, if you're familiar with the area. And it's kind of a cool downtown area, a lot of art, whatever. And we go and turn on a street corner, and I see a line of tents, like 3 or 4 city blocks, so just tents lining the sidewalk. And I'm kind of naive. I'd never seen it before. I'm thinking to myself, what, is there a show? Or people camping out to get tickets? I really don't know. And I'm looking out the window, and I realize almost immediately that it's all family, like homeless people, like grown men, women, children, entire families. Uh, it was incredibly heartbreaking. I'd never seen anything like that before. I couldn't imagine the magnitude of how many people there were living in these, quote unquote tent cities that I'd heard about before, but I'd never seen it in person. And that was just kind of the tipping point for me on how I kind of got more involved with this homeless situation and hopefully some solutions that can help. Uh, so as far as my background within that kind of thing, I went to private school, kindergarten to 8th grade, and then freshman and junior year, respectively, St. Rose, Philippine Duchesne for kindergarten through 8th, Trinity High for most of my high school career. And through them, I was involved in a lot of different organizations, such as like St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank, things like that. Never really went out of my way to get involved. It was just something the school promoted, so I was somewhat involved in these programs. But it wasn't until my experience in Colorado that really pushed me to do some research and really find out like what is going on here. What are these people really dealing with all the time, and how can someone like me or you or anybody make a change and help these people out. Uh, so I wanted to share this statistic with you because it honestly blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. According to City Union Mission, a very reputable shelter and bank established in 1924, there's 553,000 people undergoing homelessness in America on any given night. And obviously, uh, I'm familiar. I have family who's homeless. You might know somebody who's homeless. Know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's homeless. It affects all of us in many ways. Whether you're directly homeless or you know somebody, this is a serious issue that should not be taken lightly. First, I'm going to speak with you guys kind of about the everyday struggles, what these people are going through on a regular basis. Kind of their plight, if you will. And then I'm going to kind of get into like, what would the world be like, and what, if there were resources, if there are resources, how can these people be helped? What would that world look like? And then how can someone like me or just average Joe, anybody, help make a difference in some small or big way? So according to the Institute of Child Poverty Housing in the United States, the two main issues for homeless families specifically are food insecurity and lack of medical care. So food insecurity is defined as limited or unstable availability of adequate amounts of food or nutritious food specifically. So in layman's terms, these people aren't getting the right things to eat, and they're not getting the right amount of things to eat. As far as homeless families undergoing this food insecurity, the numbers are kind of all over the place. It's hard to get a solid percent. But for the data that has been collected for housed impoverished families, it's upwards of 40% undergoing food insecurity. So we can only imagine how drastic it is for those who don't even have a place to live. Food insecurity is especially harmful for children. There's physical and mental health issues that are related, development issues, especially for toddlers and infants and things of that nature, academic performance. Obviously, you can't really focus on school if you can't even handle your own starvation. It's really honestly very sad and a very serious issue. And secondly, lack of medical care. Homeless individuals are 3 to 6 times more likely to experience serious illness or injury if they're homeless. Again, especially harmful to children. They're twice as likely to suffer from acute or chronic illnesses if they're considered homeless or impoverished, but specifically homeless for sure. And then homeless people in general are more at risk for certain medical conditions such as HIV/AIDS, respiratory issues, gastrointestinal issues, heart disease, very serious, potentially deadly illnesses that need to be addressed with serious medical care that these people just do not have access to. Uh, and my next slide is really just to emphasize, I know when we start getting in big numbers like over 500,000, 40%, big definitions, your eyes can kind of glaze over. It just becomes noise and statistics. But these are real humans experiencing real suffering. Obviously the man to the left, we've all seen that type of homeless guy, hat, sign, whatever. And it's almost like a stereotype, but that's really a person who's really undergoing some serious trauma. And then obviously on the right, we have an example of a homeless family, which, to be honest, man, I can't even think of a sadder image, because this is a real, serious reality for hundreds of thousands of people every day. So obviously, you're probably wondering as much as I was, well, is there any hope? Is there anything that can be done? And the two resources I'd like to highlight are shelters and food banks. First, I'm going to start with shelters. And I provided this chart just to kind of show you the need for shelters. So according to the 2018 Annual Homeless Assessment Report sent to Congress, the percent of unsheltered homeless people in American cities with like the largest amounts of homeless population, such as California, Colorado, etc., is 70%, which means only 30% of the homeless people in these areas are actually in shelter. That means the rest are on the streets, fending for themselves, subject to climate, crime, disease, what have you, with really no help at all. What shelters do is they're going to provide safety. They're going to provide protection from the elements. They're going to keep them off the street. They're obviously, the city streets are no place for children, let alone any human being to be sleeping on, especially children and families. Shelters are a seriously important facet for these people, and a serious resource. And that's all according to Salvation Army, obviously a very reputable, what's the word? Resource and advocate for the homeless community. And then I just have a couple stories I want to share with you real fast that were provided to me through the Great Plains Food Bank. And on the left here, we have William, who unfortunately had undergone a very serious medical condition that made it to where he could no longer work and provide for his family, and was kind of put in the position of, do I provide with a place to live, or do I provide with food? Because he really didn't have a lot of money or options. And Great Plains Food Bank helped alleviate a lot of that stress by providing him and his family with nutritious food, a good amount of food, being welcoming, letting him know that he is a human who deserves to be treated right. And it really helped alleviate some of that stress for him. On the right, we have Stephanie, who helps raise her two grandchildren. She is the legal guardian for them, and kind of the same situation. She really didn't have enough to provide for them. And Great Plains Food Bank really made a difference and made it to where they didn't have to decide whether they have to live on the street or eat, because they were able to provide that supplement resources for them. And this is just two of many stories of many different food banks that make a serious impact on these people's lives. So just try and imagine a world where everyone pitches in a little bit. These food banks are up and running. These shelters are providing much needed care and support. And these people, obviously we can't solve homelessness in a day or in a year or maybe even in a lifetime. But if we can provide comfort and care and kindness to these people, that can seriously go a long way. And I'd kind of just like to go over a couple of things with you about what you guys can do and how you guys can make a difference, as well as myself or anyone interested in, getting involved and with helping homeless and in needy families. So first, I recommend start local, research local food banks, whether within your city or community, whatever. If you're having a hard time finding a reputable one, I highly suggest going to a parish or worship center. Even if you're not a religious person, I guarantee they're going to have a great resource for you on how to kind of get the ball rolling as far as providing service to those in need. You can obviously either donate resources or time. So resources, money, canned goods, old food, not old food, old clothes. You want to make sure that they're gently used. You don't want to give people trash. You don't want to give people bad food. You want to make sure that these are quality items, but items that you don't necessarily have to go out of your way and spend $1 million on. But it's just something little that can really go a long way. And as far as time, you could volunteer once a week, once every other week, once a month, a couple times a year. anything could make a huge difference. And then if you can't do any of that, if you're strapped for time and cash, resources, whatever, the least you can do is use your social media or however you keep connected within your social circles and spread awareness. You can build somebody up maybe who's involved in these programs, you know of a reputable program, maybe just shout them out on your Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Just that alone can really help. So, like I said, start local, find something to donate, whether time or resources, and if you can't do any of that, at least let it be known that there is an issue and there is ways to help. Obviously, we've talked about a lot. We've talked about the struggles they're going through, how bad it is, the ways to help, how me and you can be involved in those ways to help. And, I just kind of want to remind everyone, because we're all going to leave, go home, do our own thing. And while we're at home, safe, eating dinner with the people we love, there's people out there that can't afford that luxury, may never get that luxury. And just a little bit of help from me and you can really go a long way. I really appreciate you listening. Thank you very much.